Good morning. My name is Don Swanson, and it's my pleasure to be your service associate this morning. I am a gray-haired Caucasian in my 70s, wearing a green striped shirt and jeans. My pronouns are he, him, and his. Welcome to All Souls Braintree, into this beautiful building. Although it was dedicated in 1904, the community that built it was part of the liberal faith tradition that began here in 1833. If this is your first time with us and you would like to learn more about All Souls or Unitarian Universalism, please fill out a connection card found in the chat if you're on Zoom, or in the pews if you're in the room here, and we will be happy to follow up with you. Our services are live streamed on Zoom, and if you would like to activate Zoom's closed caption feature during the service, click the CC icon at the bottom of your screen and select Live Transcript. Assistive listening devices are also available here as you enter the sanctuary. And after the service, our remote participants are invited to stay online for a virtual social hour, and participants in the building are invited to gather in the parish hall for refreshments. Today we light our candle of hope to honor the very foundations of our deeply held values and aspirations that are under threat. Every one of our Unitarian Universalist principles is being challenged. Earth's sacredness, the beauty of diversity, the pursuit of peace, the dignity of human rights, and the strength of democracy. May this light remind us of our shared responsibility to protect and uphold these sacred values. And now may the flame of this chalice kindle within us the warmth of compassion, the light of truth, and the fire of commitment, and the spirit of love. Please join us and remain seated for our song for the candles, Flame Welcome All. Flame welcome all, calm every storm, bring us together in peace. Warm every heart, silence hatred and fear. Fill us with love, burn for peace. Our congregational covenant, which is printed on the back of the order of service, and I wanted to make sure that you know we're just speaking the preamble, which will be the words up on the wall there. Please join me in reading the preamble. We covenant to create a caring, affirming, and inclusive community that invites us to become our best selves and to serve the wider community and the world. Reverend Kathy Schmitz is an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister. She served here at All Souls from 1999 to 2007, and she tells us that she's delighted to be back with us today. Reverend Kathy has served congregations in Texas, Miami, and Orlando, and for the last 7 years she has served a number of congregations as guest speaker and consultant. Reverend Kathy and her husband Charlie Behrens make their home in Orlando, where she currently serves as the co-president of League of Women Voters of Orange County, Florida. Welcome, Kathy.
Good morning. It is really wonderful to be with you. I am a white woman in my 60s with short brown hair, and today I'm wearing a cranberry shirt with my rose quartz necklace, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Our words for opening are from Reese Williams. Spirit of life, come to us and break down barriers, to widen horizons, to make us less judgmental. Help us to see the larger picture and the kinder conclusion, to love and let live, to embrace and forgive, to sustain and to care. Help us to reach out to our better selves, that we may love more and hate less, care more and reject less, that bound together by understanding we may sustain each other through trial and tribulation, through joy and happiness, through sickness and health. Help us, Spirit of life, to be joined in common purpose of hope and fulfillment. Renew and revive us. We seek a common holy ground for all. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit for our opening hymn, Soon the Day Will Arrive, number 146. My offerings today are inspired by the Jewish High Holy Days in the midst of which we find ourselves, and in particular, the theme of forgiveness and the repair of relationships. And as recently I was reading over the words that I had written and the ideas that have served me well for many years, I felt like, given the state of our nation and the world, a short preface was needed. There is much in the world today that's hard to comprehend, let alone forgive. Where in all of this do we apply themes of forgiveness and the repair of relationships? We will each need to work this out in our own way. My remarks today are really intended for our ordinary lives rather than the extraordinary circumstances in which we find ourselves. And we will try to extrapolate, but really that's an exercise for another day. I also thought this is a good time to remind us to be thoughtful about what we believe and share. There is a tremendous amount of random theorizing and misinformation floating around. May we not contribute to that problem. And so now let us turn our attention to things more likely to be under our control. Our responsive reading is titled A Litany of Atonement. It comes from the late Reverend Robert Eller Isaacs, a Unitarian Universalist minister. Your part is the same each time. You'll see it on the screen. It's number 637 in your hymnals. So your part is, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that we have struck out in anger without just cause.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that greed has blinded us to the needs of others.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For the selfishness which sets us apart and alone.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For losing sight of our unity.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
And finally, for those and for so many acts both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
Thank you. As we gather in community, we carry with us life's hurts and its great joys. Sometimes sharing these joys and concerns in community can help. Now is the time for turning. The leaves are beginning to turn from green to red to orange. The birds are beginning to turn and are heading once more toward the south. Soon the animals will begin to turn to storing their food for winter. For leaves, birds, and animals, turning comes instinctively. But for us, turning does not come so easily. It will take an act of will for us to make a turn. It means breaking with old habits. It means admitting we have been wrong and this is never easy. It means losing face. It means starting all over again, and this is often painful. It means saying, I'm sorry. It means admitting we have the ability to change. These things can be hard to do. But unless we turn, we will be trapped forever in yesterday's ways. So let us turn. Let us turn from callousness to sensitivity, from hostility to love, from pettiness to purpose, from envy to contentment, from carelessness to discipline, and from fear to faith. Let us turn around, revive our lives as at the beginning, and turn toward each other, for in isolation there is no life. Let us be together in a moment of shared silence. Please remain seated now for our centering hymn, How Could Anyone, number 1053. A story attributed to the Zen Buddhist tradition. Two monks were traveling along a dirt road after a long rain. Along the way, they came across a large mud puddle blocking the way. The monks were able to adjust their robes and cross with minimal impact to their attire. However, next to the puddle stood a young woman elegantly dressed for a party. She could not cross without soiling her outfit. The older of the monks greeted the young woman and then picked her up, carried her across the puddle, and set her down. The woman thanked the monk, who bowed to her, and the monks continued on their way. As they traveled along, the older monk noticed that the younger monk was silent and seemed upset. Finally, after many hours of travel, the younger monk exploded. "You know it is against our vows to speak to a woman, let alone touch one. Yet you picked up that woman and carried her." "Yes, I did," said the older monk, "and I set her down on the other side. You, on the other hand, seem to be carrying her still."
At each service, we have an opportunity to give thanks for the blessings in our lives and in our community. Our offering is a chance to support our work and outreach as a growing, powerful community that refuses to be silenced. We find strength in our collective action and shared purpose, knowing we are not alone. Our active living force is nurtured by our common capital, empathy, actions, and our hope. It's in the small acts of showing up, the conversations we have, the donations we make, and our unwavering commitment to building a better future together. Please join me in giving so that we can continue to have a community that supports and prepares us for the challenges in these difficult times. You can submit your offering electronically online via the link in our chat or mail it to All Souls Church at the address provided.
We carry things that we do not need to carry. Judgments, resentments, hurts. We carry them and we take them home and we feed them and they grow. Many of us hold on to unpleasant moments, unfortunate incidents, innocent missteps. Time passes and like the young monk, we carry them still. We carry things we do not need to carry. Judgments, resentments, hurts. These things weigh us down and they hold us back and they nibble away at our very being. Somehow, we must learn to set them down, to let them go, to stop feeding them. What do you carry that you might set down? We are in the midst of the Jewish High Holy Days, which began with Rosh Hashanah last Monday evening and will end at the conclusion of Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, at nightfall this Thursday. Our Jewish friends and neighbors use this time in the calendar to review the past and contemplate the future. Now, in general, we don't want to live in the past or dwell only in the future. In general, we want to live in the present moment, but our wonderful, complex minds have a way of pulling in the past and letting the future creep in. And so there are rituals that help us make peace with our past and with our future. Rituals, customs, practices, perspectives that bring us actually radically into the present moment by asking us to be here and now, to repair our relationships, to atone, to forgive, to become whole again. A Unitarian Universalist liturgy for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur describes this time in the Jewish calendar like this. It calls us to look at ourselves from a different place from the usual vantage point, to see ourselves without the trappings which may clutter our days and ways, to see ourselves as we truly are. It is awesome to look clearly at the real moment, end quote. This is why these days are known in the Jewish tradition as the days of awe. An important part of the days of awe is forgiveness, seeking forgiveness and granting forgiveness. And this is important, but I would suggest that it is not the apology, the making or receiving, that is the real issue. An apology given or accepted is important, but ultimately it's a tool that helps us get back into right relationship and brings us back to that wholeness. Right relationship and wholeness, these are the goals of the annual ritual in the Jewish tradition. Now, I personally like that the High Holy Days come in the fall. This year, they actually began on the day of the autumn equinox, the first day of fall, a time of balance when the hours of light and the hours of day equal each other. We seek relationship, wholeness, balance, and sometimes this will mean asking for forgiveness and for being forgiving. Now, some might suggest that we do not need these kinds of rituals that are offered by many kinds of traditions, rituals that encourage us to stop and take stock, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly, monthly, or yearly. We might suggest that we should examine every action that we do, and before we do it, then we wouldn't ever have to have these kinds of rituals. And for those of you who are able to do that, great. Those of you who weigh every action before you take it and never make a mistake, or that on those rare occasions when you do make a mistake, you immediately recognize it and remedy the situation, for those of you for whom that is true, you can sit back and relax because I'm not talking to you today. Please bear with the rest of us. Now, one of the challenges that faces liberal religion, and I would say Unitarian Universalism in particular, is that we don't have a ritual of forgiveness. And I'm not going to argue that we need one, but I am going to suggest that because we don't have one, we need to be aware of this responsibility in other ways. And so I do find it helpful to have times to reflect on relationship, and I appreciate being inspired by our Jewish friends and neighbors. But many of us reject the rituals that exist because of past issues we may have had with them, or the way that they have sometimes used as a bludgeon rather than a blessing. Others of us do use the rituals of other traditions, either from our earlier life or ones we have learned from friends. And sometimes we create our own new traditions and rituals. I'm not going to suggest how we should do it, but I am going to suggest that you consider where forgiveness, receiving, and giving fits in your life. And I'd also like to suggest that there are a couple of things that we might want to keep in mind while we think about this. First, liberal religion has historically tended to have an optimistic view of human nature. This can get us into trouble in several areas. The first is in the area of perfection, which I'll address in a few minutes. But the question is, does your way of dealing with forgiveness allow you and others to be less than perfect, really and honestly? The other area where we get in trouble at times is with the truly difficult side of life, the tragedy. Does our way of dealing with forgiveness allow you and others to be forgiven, not just for being less than perfect, but for doing something that is huge, an awful mistake? Now, I'm assuming here some repentance on the part of the one making the mistake. There's another whole conversation that we can have about those who do not recognize their mistake or ask for forgiveness. But for now, I simply invite your reflection on whether your understanding of forgiveness has room for both imperfection and for tragedy. As the UU liturgy says, sometimes when we stop and look at ourselves from a place different from the usual vantage point, when we see ourselves without the trappings which may clutter our days and our ways, when we see ourselves as we truly are, we will see that the repair of our relationships is not dependent on another person at all. Rather, it's our perspective that needs repair. It is awesome to look clearly at the present moment. It is awesome to realize that we have the power to transform our relationships. In a lovely little children's book called The Hurt, Teddy Dulesky tells the story of a little boy who has a hurt. Justin's hurt came into being when his friend Gabriel called him a name. Justin says nothing to anyone. Instead, he took his hurt home, where it grew and grew. Justin, throughout the book, has to learn to let his hurt go before he could renew his relationship with Gabriel. Only then could he realize that when his friend called him a name, he had choices in how he reacted. Not just in how he acted, but also in how he felt. If Gabriel called him a name, Justin could call him one right back, and they could laugh and go on playing. That was one choice. If it hurt Justin, Justin could tell Gabriel how he felt, and they could talk about it. That was another choice. Both of these choices are better than taking the hurt home to let it grow. And sometimes things do hurt, but we have choices about how long we hold that hurt and how much we let it grow and how long we let carry it. Excuse me. In the case of the monks, one carried the alleged offense for hours. The other set the woman down on the other side of the mud puddle. The older monk, the one who carried the woman across the mud puddle, had to make a values choice. He had made a vow not to speak to a woman, let alone touch one, and yet he picked a woman up and carried her. In doing so, he chose compassion and kindness over the strict observance of his vows. We sometimes forget that the word values implies a relative worth. Values are not on or off, they're weighed against each other. And sometimes we have to choose, sometimes we really can't have it all. The monk chose compassion and kindness over strict observance of his vows. Could have gone the other way, but it wouldn't have made a very good story. The monk could have passed the young woman by, And they might have felt secure in that choice, but perhaps later they would have regretted that choice and would berate themselves for having valued their vows over kindness. In most situations, we have more choices than we realize, and so do other people. Life is complicated. And so as our Jewish friends and neighbors take stock of their lives, we too are invited to take stock of ours, to look at our broken hearts, our heavy burdens, our tense relationships, and to see if possibly there is a way to move toward more wholeness and health, to see if in this season of balance, we might bring some balance into our own lives. Some questions to consider. Is there someone to whom you might apologize? Is there an apology you might accept? Is there an apology you feel you need? And what are the other options? When you stop and look at yourself from a different place from the usual vantage point, when you see yourself without the trappings which may clutter your days and your ways, when you see yourself as you truly are, might the other person, who might at first seem without values, simply be weighing values a little differently than you? Might it be your judgment of their weighing that is most in need of adjustment? You don't have to change the weighing of your values to respect that someone else might weigh things differently. So now let's turn our attention to that question of perfection with a story from the Sufi tradition. It's as repeated in the book Soul Food by Cornfield and Feldman. Now, Mullah Nasruddin is Mullah is a teacher in the Islamic tradition, and Mullah Nasruddin in particular is known for their stories about Mullah Nasruddin. He's kind of the fool, and so he's used in teaching stories. So Mullah Nasruddin was sitting in a tea shop when a friend came in excitedly to speak to him. "I'm about to get married, Mullah. I'm very excited. Mullah, have you ever thought about marriage yourself?" Nasruddin replied, "I did think of getting married, and in fact, in my youth, I very much wanted to. But I waited to find the perfect wife. I traveled to look for her in Damascus. There I met a beautiful woman. She was gracious and kind and deeply spiritual, but she had no worldly knowledge. So I traveled to Isfahan. There I met a woman who is both spiritual and worldly, beautiful in so many ways, but we didn't communicate very well. Finally, I went to Cairo, and there, after much searching, I found her. She was spiritually deep, graceful, beautiful in every respect, at home in the world and in the realms beyond it. I had found the perfect wife." His friend questioned further, "And then did you not marry her, Mullah?" "Alas," said Nasruddin as he shook his head, "she was, unfortunately, waiting for the perfect husband." The perfect partner, the perfect parent, the perfect child, the perfect worker, boss, citizen, volunteer, student. We hold out images of perfect, and it takes us on long, long journeys searching. Sometimes we're seeking perfection in others, but sometimes we're seeking it in ourselves. And while the idea of perfection can be a helpful model, something to let you know what you're looking for, if we think we're going to find that in reality, we are going to be very disappointed and disillusioned. When we expect others to be perfect, then we either avoid having a relationship with them, or we have trouble forgiving them once we're in that relationship because of their inevitable humanness. Likewise, when we expect ourselves to be perfect, our understanding of our own humanity is at risk. Perfectionism is an important theme when we talk about forgiveness, and it is a good time to talk about forgiveness. One last set of questions. Is it possible that you are expecting too much of another person? or of yourself, expecting perfection out of a mere mortal. Making mistakes, having flaws, being imperfect does not make you or anyone else less than whole. Human beings make mistakes. They come with flaws. They are imperfect. Wholeness does not require our perfection. It requires our gracious affirmation of our humanity, and our full humanity includes mistakes and flaws. And so we come to the paradox, where two seemingly opposite things are both true. We will always be making mistakes and their attendant apologies. We will have flaws. We will continue to learn and to grow to overcome them. And yet, in this acknowledgement, we are whole, fully human, in a sense, perfect just the way we are. One of our Unitarian Universalist Association principles summed this up and contained the paradox, though we rarely notice it. The third principle said, we accept one another and encourage spiritual growth in our congregations. We accept one another. We are open to each other. We open our hearts just as we are. And at the same time, we encourage growth, continued growth. Always there's more. Love and hope. May this community live fully into that vision, and may our lives be lived as examples of what is possible. May it be so. And will you sing with me? Our closing hymn is What Wondrous Love, number 18. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit. Our closing words come from Reverend Susan Manker-Seal. Much of ministry is a benediction, a speaking well of each other and the world, a speaking well of what we value, honesty, love, forgiveness, trust, a speaking well of our efforts, a speaking well of our dreams. This is how we celebrate life, through speaking well of it, living the benediction and becoming as a word well spoken. And though we extinguish this flame, we carry with us the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment, now held within our hearts until we are together again.
Thanks, Jacob. We offer our gratitude to our guest speaker, Reverend Kathy Schmitz. Yeah. And we also acknowledge that the efforts of many people who came together to create today's service. Our music director, choir members, tech team, our service associate, usher and greeter, coffee hour organizers, Sunday service committee members, the person who makes sure the candles are both lit and extinguished, and all of you who are participants in person and online. If you would like to take a more active role in creating or supporting our Sunday services, please reach out to Sarah Elstrom. Our upcoming events, there's a connection circle on Wednesday, September 24th, 2:30 to 3:30, 1 hour of open discussion. Writing group, Wednesday, September 24th, 4 to 5:30. Next Sunday will be our Food for the Soul service in the parish hall at 10:30 a.m. All are welcome to attend. AA meetings Mondays at 7 and Tuesdays at 8 in the parish hall. And check out the Canton UU Church website for weekly small groups open to the wider community on Thursday afternoons. If you're attending on Zoom, please stay online for a virtual social hour. If you're in the building, please join us in the parish hall for refreshments or speak with the people on Zoom by logging into Zoom on your phone for virtual coffee hour. Find the link on the